So today we're talking about a couple of different topics, and we've got a number of different speakers today to talk, not me, unfortunately. So we're going to talk about scaling with universal API management, and then also about API governance. Just a couple of things to just let you know what we're doing. We've got some food coming at about 6:15. Just to get people ordered and fed. There's drinks outside, so please do help yourselves at any time. And we also have a prize draw at the end, I believe. So, just want to thank all the people that have helped us organise today's meetup. It's a really great team effort, and we definitely welcome all your questions and suggestions and other things for the future. Slalom and MuleSoft are sponsoring today's event, so we've got some swag to give away, and the prize draw, as well as anything you'd like to help yourself to, so please do. So can we just get a show of hands of who's new to this meetup? There's not been to one before. Thanks. And what drew you to the meetup today?
Apart from the free beer.
Apart from the free beer. Maybe introduce yourself and then.
So yeah, John Burt, I'm Head of Enterprise Architecture currently at Greater Manchester Combined Authority, but I'm moving into a new role in January, so this is part of the reason for coming is, and that's at Manchester City Council. I'm really looking, we're doing stuff with integration, we're using Rhapsody at the moment across Greater Manchester, and it's really looking for something to attract skills and use it for multiple uses rather than something that's grown out of a health background.
Okay, welcome, and please ask any questions that you like, anyone in the room. To help you grow your knowledge about MuleSoft and anything integration. So just an introduction. So we're just going to talk about. So the session's going to talk about introduction and new release updates for Community and Dreamforce and things that we're doing there. Then we'll get into our two topics. We've got Chetan talking about universal API management. So you'll learn a bit more about how that capability works and some of the demo features around that. We'll then talk about API governance with the demo, which is another new capability of MuleSoft that's come out this year. And it closes a key gap in the MuleSoft lifecycle that we've been looking for a long time. And then we'll close out with a trivia quiz with some prizes. And so hopefully you'll get some questions right, and please feel free to have a bit of fun with that. And with that, I'll hand over.
Alright, some important announcements. Alright, so new certification. So MuleSoft is coming with one of the new certification, which is MuleSoft Certified Integration Foundation. So it is just kind of level 0 before MCD level 1. And good news is I have the questions. But don't ask me. Wait. And next one is MuleSoft Robotic Process Automation. I think this is going over all the MuleSoft community and website and internet. So like this is one of the newest additions to the MuleSoft ecosystem. And next one is MuleSoft Composer. MuleSoft has been working on expanding the MuleSoft Composer capabilities over time. Next one is Universal API Management on Anypoint platform, which is also one of the topics for the day. And the last one is Anypoint Code Builder. This is something I guess I'm not pretty much sure about this, but I believe this would be Anypoint Code Builder will be a part of browser, right, where we can write our code and take the complete API from complete lifecycle, from designing to deployment and maintenance. And continuing with that, yeah, so talking about Anypoint Studio, we have the latest version of 7.12 with runtime version 4.4 and Anypoint Flex CAD, which is also a part of a complete package of universal API management. So we have API governance as well. We'll be seeing some part of it, MuleSoft Composer and Anypoint Builder that I covered in last slide. Alright, so going to the first topic of the day, which is achieving scale with universal API management. And over to you, Chetan.
Thanks, Nitesh, and welcome everyone. So before I start the presentation, I just want to brief about myself. I'm Chetan Parekh. I'm working with Slalom as a principal consultant in the integration space. Steve Clark is my boss. And I have total 19 years of experience. I started my career as Java. I saw a lot of null pointer exception and class not found exception initially. And then I started working with the TIPCO. I did a lot of project in TIPCO. And I first encountered MuleSoft in 2016. My first API was a NetSuite system API, where we used to create custom record in NetSuite. I'm very hands-on with the technology. After the meet, I have to fix a couple of defects. And I nearly trained, more than 50 people in MuleSoft.
I'm one of them.
I was one of them. I like teaching people, and I obtained all the MuleSoft certifications. Some of them are expired, but I still say it is valid. So
You didn't tell me that.
And you're preparing people on MuleSoft for MuleSoft, isn't it?
I think there should be a special category. So moving on, agenda for this presentation, as you see, it is not aligned properly. It is intentional because when you go into the API landscape of any organization, they are not well aligned. So this is what I want to depict in this agenda slide. So I will start with challenges in scaling legacy API. Then we'll give overview about Universal API management. Then we'll talk about MuleSoft Flex Gateway, what is it, and what are the deployment options available for Flex Gateway. And then we'll take a case study for a biomedical company. I worked in the past and we faced certain issues related to API landscape. So we'll talk about the API landscape, what is the current state, and from that particular API landscape, we'll take one particular use case and how we can scale that particular use case using Universal API management, and subsequently how the entire API landscape of a client can be scaled out using Universal API management capability. We'll have quick demo as well. Hope it is still working. Before starting the presentation, I just checked and it works, so I'm hoping it will work. And then we'll talk about the pricing and what is the rollout strategy that we have for Universal API management. And if there is a question, I will take this question, but in between also, I will pause for question. If you have a question, I will be happy to take those questions. So before starting on the API management, there was very interesting incident shared by one of the senior architects from MuleSoft. So he and his colleague, they went to presentation to share the MuleSoft license. So after the presentation, a non-technical person came and asked, this okay, it's very lucrative, API is really good, MuleSoft is, but what is API? It is a software or it is hardware? So just to give a brief understanding. So API is typically like this. You have a website address. Similarly, you will have your API address or endpoint usage, and typically you will have this kind of messages exchanged via API. So this is how API look like. It's not a hardware; it's a piece of software. So I want to talk about challenges currently faced in scaling legacy APIs. So API landscape consists of heterogeneous technologies. So typical enterprise, they have more than hundreds of API built over the period of time, and they follow the diverse architecture, diverse technology, specification, and environment. So that is the biggest challenge that they have. And since API built using diverse platform, diverse teams are siloed. They are not aware of what other teams are doing. And specifically when you talk about large organizations which cater multiple market and their offices and business span across multiple countries, sometimes they work really in silos. since they are working in silos, what other team is doing, what other team has built, it is not visible to other team. So sometimes what happens, you are building the same capability again and again and again across the team. And because of this reason, what happens, you will not be able to build on top of what is already exist. And that's why if you want to release a new feature, if you want to release a new capability, that process is very slow. So the challenges that we have discussed is, limited or no reuse because of the silo team that we have. There is no single pane of glass because there are multiple technology, multiple environments, so there is no centralized place to see what is the consumption of my API, how my APIs are performing, and there is a lack of agility and higher cost. So MuleSoft has been in this API space since long, and they have been looking into this problem since long, and they have come up with a solution to overcome some of the challenges that we have depicted on this slide. So in the next slide, I'm going to show what offering they have. So they have come with Universal API Management. Universal API Management is a set of tools that they have released, and they also enhanced certain existing tools that they had. So API, basically they have 4 different persona. You have a developer who like to design the API specification based on the business requirement. So in the release of Universal API Management, now they have enabled GraphSQL and async API support as well. And they are also coming up with the CLI, by which if you have API developed in non-MuleSoft environment, you can via CLI you can import the specification, other documentation into Anypoint platform automatically. So that is something coming up. Then you have another persona, API owner. Basically, as an API owner, I want to ensure that my APIs are deployed in robust environment. So for that, MuleSoft already has Cloud Hub, where it's a PaaS platform as a integration platform as a service. And recently, they also come up with the Cloud 2.0, where you can have some additional features. Instead of having dedicated server, you can run your APIs in container as well. So that is something that's coming up. So to cater the additional requirement that API owner want to have, they have come up with a Flex Gateway. It's a lightweight gateway solution which you can deploy in various environments. And this is what we are going to cover in one of the demo. And then another persona is architect, who like to manage and govern consistently API across all the environment. So for that, we have Anypoint monitoring, where you can see the performance of the API, what is the request, how many requests you have received, what is the response time, and based on your requirement, you can set the policy as well. Anypoint API governance is a new module that has been released as a part of Universal API Management capability. It allows you to validate your API specification automatically based on the rules that you have specified. So it's very interesting and very useful. You don't have to look at the code of the API specification manually. It automatically, whenever you create new API and publish, it automatically validates. And if there is an issue, it will tell us that these are the API which are not conforming to the standard. Akshata is going to cover a detailed session after me on that, so we'll have more detail coming in that session. And the fourth and last persona is API product manager, typically a business user. So he wants to package the API as a product. When you say product, you will have proper documentation, proper categorization, you will have governance around who can access that API or not. So that is available as a part of API Anypoint Exchange. And along with that, there is a new module which is coming up. It's called Anypoint Experience Hub. It is more from the developer perspective, where you will have developer going and discovering the API. They will have forums and other features to facilitate developers. So this is the overall package that MuleSoft have come up with. Some of the components are new, some of the components are enhanced. So I just want to pause and if any question I want to take.
How is that RFT?
That is a runtime fabric.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a runtime fabric.
The other thing was GraphQL, which I hadn't considered. Does that mean you manage that GraphQL like it's on top of experience and stuff like that? But it sounds like it can also sit on top of legacy APIs as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. So typically, yeah, you can have on top of the system API which is acting as a API, but you can further explore and make it on top of the legacy API.
That's a way of combining potentially as well. And when you talk about a legacy API, as we know, API can be the definition of API is different to someone else and things like that. 9 times out of 10 we talk about the application, whereas really it's the interface. When we talk about the legacy APIs, potentially these are built in say Java or other platforms and other all that sort of thing. Are you saying it could be anything as well? So it might be just not necessarily a big application, not necessarily.
So typically legacy API is something which is built on the legacy technology, and it uses the legacy specification like SOAP and those kind of HTTP requests that we use to.
Java's not legacy, yeah.
Any further questions?
That's it might be really ignorant, I don't know, but it's down the bottom, it says what's the catalog discover and reuse API specifications into Exchange. So is Exchange a
Yeah. So Exchange is basically a portal within the MuleSoft platform,
right?
where all the APIs are listed. Okay. So if you want to understand what are capabilities that we have with respect to ordering, so you can go to the Exchange, and you can search on order. You can have the category as well based on the functionality, based on the business unit, and Exchange is a facility where developer can search API and learn more about the API. So typically it will have the sample request response structure and everything. So before start developing something from the fresh, ideally what we do, we go to the Exchange, we search whether similar API exists or not, and we also provide the mock service as well. So instead of start developing, you can have a mock service which you can invoke and see whether it's fulfilling your need or not.
So you get Exchange out of the box in MuleSoft Cloud Hub. And what you get in Cloud Hub is you get it's an out of the box connect with MuleSoft Publish, you'll get third parties that will publish connect with them. You build APIs, as Chetan said, in your projects, and you publish them there as well. And it becomes your go-to place to discover your API assets that you can reuse, consume, extend, etc.
And would you see people like product owners, product managers, sorry, and architects also using that?
Everyone, it's about every ecosystem. Ideally, you want your product owners to, in the business, to take ownership of the APIs as products because they're part of business processes, and they should be able to go then and discover APIs that tag against different domains, different capabilities, etc.
It's actually got quite a rich search functionality. So like everything, if you've only put two words in about your API, then it's not going to explain it. But if you've got enough proper governance that they're describing it, then it's quite rich and you can find it. So the example is that one of those place, Hopewiser is an address third-party service. They call the API Hopewiser because they documented well. We could do address level without the API service. So it will, it's quite. If you put the information, it's quite functional, rich thing.
Yeah, the reason I'm interested is because where I've been in the past, in a previous life, I really struggled to get that kind of mindset going. And it was the knowledge was in like 4 or 5 people in terms of what APIs were to go. So being able to distribute that, I see.
And it not only supports the APIs and reusable developed by you, but there are certain accelerators also available from MuleSoft. Like MuleSoft has healthcare accelerator, they have accelerator for NetSuite, for Salesforce. So that also you can search. So out of this component, I just want to have a deep dive for the Anypoint Flex Gateway, which is the new component that they have just released. So MuleSoft Flex Gateway is a gateway which is very fast. It comes with the various deployment options, and you can seamlessly integrate with your DevOps pipeline, with your CI/CD pipeline, and it makes your life very easy. Not only from the management perspective of your API, but from the deployment and configuration perspective as well. So I'm planning to do one more meetup, maybe next year, not now.
Definitely.
Maybe when I have some time, I want to do some kind of GitOps using GitOps and MuleSoft, so where we can show the capability, how we can implement the GitOps concept from MuleSoft using Flex Gateway and other using API management tool. So what are the features that MuleSoft Flex Gateway offers? So you can extend Anypoint platform capability to any API running anywhere. So if you have a legacy application or application which is developed outside MuleSoft, but you want to avail the feature of MuleSoft for that particular API, so using Flex Gateway is it possible. It offers the unified security mechanism, so you can integrate with your OAuth provider across your API landscape using Flex Gateway. It can make your API discoverable as well, like we talked about Exchange. So you can not only the MuleSoft API, but API which are developed and running outside MuleSoft, you can have them in Exchange. So that way you can discover them easily. And since we are making them discoverable, you can increasing reusability as well. And also you can have the uniform governance and discoverability. You can have the proper monitoring across your API landscape using Flex Gateway. And Flex Gateway comes with a multiple deployment option. In the next slide I'm going to explain that. So you can have the standalone as well, where you have your API running on a standalone server, that's a Tomcat server. So you can have gateway added in front of it. You can have a container sidecar as well, or you can have the ingress controller as well in the Kubernetes. So there are various deployment options available for Flex Gateway, and typically when you talk about large enterprises, they have hundreds of API and 10s or 20 different environments. So with this feature and flexible deployment option, MuleSoft have positioned Flex Gateway very aptly in the API management.
So can I ask a question? So based on that, someone could buy Flex Gateway, put it on their internal data center and things like that, some sort of airbox sort of situation, therefore use it as a standalone product.
So you can have in your container as well, on the server as well. There are
I'm thinking more that there is some security commands that are right further, things like that, that don't necessarily. They have got their own data centers, their airbox sometimes, and that sort of thing. So therefore, if they've got a statement, things like that, you can put that on a VM container, as you said, whatever they want to do it.
Yeah, that's very important. And I'm going to take that use case in coming slide. As our client has a environment set up in AWS, and they want to have Flex Gateway. So this is the case study I'm going to cover. This is for a biomedical company I work for, and they have very scattered environment. So some of their applications they are running in AWS Ireland region, where they have their order management system, their website, public website, their team, product information management, and they have certain microservices also running in the AWS environment. On-premise, they have their payroll system. They have laboratory management. They are doing a lot of research work, so they want to protect their data and they don't want to put the data outside their premises. So they have laboratory management system in their premises. Similarly for R&D, they are using different applications. And they have something running on the reporting part on premise. And on the SaaS part, they are using Service Cloud, Sales Cloud, they are using Marketing Cloud, and for training their employee, they are using Learning Management System, which is SaaS-based application. So as you can see, they have varying deployment architecture and varying technology that they are using, and this become prohibitive factor.
Oh.
Hello.
Just press it.
Yeah.
Huh.
Hello.
Yeah.
So there is technology, and it becomes prohibitive factor because they don't have single pane of glass. They don't have one screen where they can see how APIs deployed in different kind of environment are performing. They don't have the unified security. Each API landscape, they have implemented best security available at that point of time, and sometimes due to budgetary constraint, they don't upgrade to the latest standard. Similarly, there is no standard way to implement the monitoring and alerting. You need to have the high initial investment because most of the tools, they do not have consumption-based pricing. You have to buy the tool and then explore, and you have to procure the servers. And different tools are used for the different kind of API management, so that require different kind of skills. So there is no across the board standard way of managing API. So these are the challenges that we have seen for this company, and as it's planning to acquire more company, they are going to increase the entropy further. So I just want to further dig down into the order management system use case from this landscape. Any question on this slide? So this is the order management system that they had. It is a monolithical application built over the period of time. When the company started, it was having 2-digit number of employees in 2-digit. Now they have more than 1,000 employees across the globe. So the order management system was built in a monolithic way. They start, they built small and then started adding the functionality related to various business process into the same application. So they had a product master, they have stock management, price list, works is basically their compliance standard, and they have ordering UI as well. So basically when any order received via email or as a fax, there is order UI where the customer support representative manually enters the order, and when you place an order, there is a need to check the stock as well, stock availability service. So they have that service exposed as a HTTP service in a legacy environment. Now business has a different aspiration. Currently the stock availability service is only used by ordering UI, which the module which reside in the same monolithic application, and they have the public website as well, which is residing in the same AWS environment. So they have exposed only API to only 2 consumers, but business has a different aspiration. They want to onboard more order acquisition channels. So they want to develop a mobile app where they can leverage the stock availability service. They want to integrate with the WeChat as well. If you're not aware with the WeChat is a WhatsApp of China. WhatsApp does not work in China, but similarly they have WeChat. In WhatsApp we have contact, call, and status, 3 tabs only. But in WeChat, you can have your custom app as well. So this is, they want to integrate with that as well. And apart from that, they want to have the robust industry standards, state of monitoring and alerting. And important thing is shorter time to market and lower initial investment. And once there was a plan to sunset this monolithic application. So what they want is when the application is sunsetted, there should be take waste. Otherwise, the investment they are going to do for API management, it will lost when they move out from this application and move to the SaaS-based application. So this is the solution So this is the solution implemented using Universal API management, so that you can expose your stock availability service not only to the your ordering UI and website, but other ordering channel as well. So as we can see, we can have the Anypoint Flex Gateway installed over here in front of the legacy application in the same environment, and we can leverage the Anypoint monitoring, visualizer, API alert, and API governance, which can be leveraged by support team to monitor and govern the API in a proper way. And the other channels that you have, they can use Anypoint Flex Gateway to funnel their request. So this is the proposed solution, how Universal API management can help to achieve the scale. And since we are introducing Flex Gateway, the out-of-box features of the Cloud Hub, like Anypoint platform monitoring, security, alerting, they are available out of the box. So you don't have to buy separate product or invest in securing the hardware and software if you use Anypoint Flex. Any question?
Well, I'll ask you now. Does it allow you to apply policies somehow to the front of the API?
Yes. Yeah, that's what's there in the demo as well. So I have applied 2 policies. You can have a rate limiting policy, and you can have a kind of basic authentication.
So the goal of it is that APIs are not built, of course,
Yes.
that are built elsewhere. You're providing the ability to manage and monitor and measure those things in the MuleSoft ecosystem.
And the benefits of it too.
The benefit, all the benefits of the ecosystem without the things that are built on other platforms or that are legacy. So that's the whole point of achieving scale, is you can scale out your ecosystem without having to refactor everything.
So this is the solution that we have talked about, single use case from the whole landscape that we have seen. But what happened when we apply the same solution, same approach to the whole landscape? So based on the environment that client has, we can install the Flex Gateway either in AWS or on premise, or for the SaaS-based application, we can have the Cloud Hub, which can give a proxy to the SaaS-based application, and all the APIs deployed and running in various environments. They can leverage the latest features of Cloud Hub, so you will have Anypoint monitoring, Anypoint alerting, visualizer, API governance, and other features available out of box. And it will become a unified solution rather than you are having solution which is environment or technology specific. So with that, I'm going to give a small demo. Hope it is still working. So this is the default installation of Flex Gateway. You can see that it is currently in a running state.
It's installed on Docker, right?
It is installed on Docker. So this can be your Unix server, this can be your Windows server, or any other environment that you have. And when you go to the Anypoint Flex, this is Flex Gateway registered in the Cloud Hub, and it has only one replica, but you can have multiple replicas of the Flex Gateway. And I click on API, it shows me the API which are deployed under this Flex Gateway.
still getting an echo from the microphone there. Maybe you don't need both mics. Even if you think your laptop's working on audio. Just ditch the mic if you want to.
So this is the API which we have developed, deployed in the Flex Gateway, and we apply the policy as well. So let me show you how we can apply the policy. So as you navigate to this particular screen, which is specific to this API, you will have details like how many requests you have received, what are the total policy violations, what are the total errors, and average response time. So this screen is available out of box for any API that you deploy via Flex Gateway. And in this case, you can apply the policy as well, where you can click on the add policies. You can see that these are the policies which are available out of box. So in the security, these are the policies available under security. So you can have basic authentication. You can have IP block list, IP allowed list, you can have JWT authentication, or you can have integration with LDAP as well for the authentication purpose. And all these policies are, it is coded within the MuleSoft, so you don't have to do much of the coding for this, you just have to configure it. So it's more of a no-code solution for your policies. So let me show you one of the policies which I have applied. I have applied the rate limiting policy, where I'm saying if the number of requests is more than 2 in 1 minute, then it will block further requests. Endpoint I have. Because Flex Gateway is deployed in my local environment, you can see the local host. I'm running Flex Gateway in my local environment. And now I'm using Mule. When I try to hit the third request, give me this error. So this is because we have configured the policy which are available out of box. And not only policy that you can apply, but you can define the SLA tier as well. So if you want to expose your API for the external consumption, you can define the standard as well. You can have gold, silver, platinum. So based on the standard, you define how many requests in a given time period consumer can invoke. So that way also it is possible. So it will give you flexibility to have a different tier of access based on the price that you are charging to your customer. Any question on this?
No.
So with that, I am ending the demo.
Okay.
And I'm going to talk about the price.
That's
So-
more important.
That's more important actually. So traditionally, MuleSoft more into the fixed cost business, you have to buy certain processing power and additional add-ons like API management, monitoring, and other modules they want to have. But with introduction of universal API management, they have moved from the fixed cost to consumption-based pricing. So on the cost perspective, Flex Gateway, they will charge 100 million API requests per year. API manager, they are going to charge per API per month. API governance module, which Akshata is going to cover, they will charge per API per month. And API experience hub, they will charge per registered application or per registered consumer per month. So it's not a fixed price that they are going to charge you, but depending upon the volume that you are going to consume, they are going to charge. And existing customers can start exploring universal API management without any additional cost or configuration required. New customers have no longer to buy API manager or analytical capabilities separately. It is available by default. And consumer can buy consumption-based UPI, universal API management capability a la carte as well.
Nice.
And universal API management capability can be used without need of having a runtime. So you don't have to buy the worker or the processing power, but you just want to use a particular feature of universal API management, that is also possible. And that is a big shift, because earlier whenever you want to use any feature of MuleSoft platform, you have to have your worker license. But with universal API management, it is not the requirement.
Is it per API per month? If I'm an API manager, is that at a certain time on the number of APIs that have been in there at maximum or whatever and things like that? Because I'm thinking you might develop an API to do testing and all this sort of stuff. You might do demo APIs. You might do stuff like that. So it's only in there for maybe an hour or two. But does that count as one API per month?
Yeah, so that count across the environment actually.
With the API manager licensing, you're getting thresholds now of set as a free API conference, and then it goes up to tier.
What about the workers you were telling? The workers we don't need here or?
We don't need workers.
Okay.
Worker we don't need, because in earlier world, when you create a proxy, you need to assign a worker.
Yeah.
Okay, but with Flex Gateway, you need to install in your environment.
Okay.
So it will use,
Oh,
processing
in our
capacity of
environment.
your.
Okay, fine.
Okay, you don't need to have the worker.
Yeah, yeah.
Any further
So
questions?
whatever existing customers, they don't need any extra cost if they
Yeah.
want to use UAPIM.
They have to pay
Means they
only
can
for what they consume.
Okay.
And that is the case with Cloud Hub 2.0 as well.
Hmm.
You don't need an additional license for that. It's available.
Just
in
by
your
default, it will be there, or
It will be
just
there.
to explore they can.
Yeah,
do
it will be there. By default, it will be there.
So they can just explore, but if they want to use, so they need to pay.
They need to pay. Yeah.
Okay.
If the option is already available now,
Mm.
and it is full-fledged feature which is available, not the demo version. And if you want to explore, if you want to use the portion that you use, you will be charged for that.
Okay.
And to conclude, I want to discuss about the rollout strategy. And this is a standard strategy, standard plan that we have been using for various API-led initiatives that we have. Typically, we have explore, pilot, and expand phase. Explore is typically, it will take around 4 weeks, where we land, we understand what is the API landscape, what is the network configuration that they have. We catalog their existing API, we capture the volume and other policy detail. So that will give us idea, and we'll align with the client's vision in this 1 month, and then we'll decide which is the piece which is more valuable that we want to take first and implement the universal API manager. So that is what we'll do in the pilot phase. We'll take the most value generating API landscape, and then we'll implement API universal API management solution for that. So to do that, we have to create a plan, we have to secure resources, we need to do some network configuration as well, that we will be doing. Then we'll publish the API, apply the policy, and configure the alert and monitoring dashboard. And whatever the learnings that we have from the pilot phase, typically we implement, we try to overcome, or we try to enhance in the expand phase. So expand phase is basically iterative. We can have multiple initiatives running in parallel, or you can have iterative one after another initiative running in parallel, where gradually in a progressive manner you will move your entire API landscape to the universal API. So with that, if you have any further question, I'm happy to take this.
So they are asking like, is question from a developer. He is using current cloud up thing, okay, and how Flex Gateway will help him, like, to make how he want, if he want to move to Flex Gateway, what is the benefits and all.
Yeah. So Cloud Hub is integration as integration platform as a service. But Flex Gateway is the extension of that capability in your local environment. It can be a Docker environment, it can be your on-premise environment, or it can be your own private cloud environment. So both are not replacement of each other, but both are extending each other's capabilities into your work.
That's right.
You get a notification, right?
Correct.
But the Flex Gateway, that capability is residing within the Flex Gateway.
True.
Okay, so your business logic is separate than your non-functional stuff that you want to do. That's a good idea. Any further questions? If there is no further question, I would like to end this
पॉज कर लो,
presentation.
अगर रहेगा तो फिर बंद करना रहेगा कुछ। और देखो ऐसे,
मैं इसको वैसे उठा के कर दूंगा।
नहीं नहीं ऐसे देखो, ऐसे ऐसे होता है, ऐसे
गिरेगा तो नहीं?
ऐसे 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 होता है।
मैं फ़ोन गिराना नहीं चाहता, बस ठीक है।
और मेरा पूरा आना चाहिए।
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, today we'll be speaking more about saying about API governance with MuleSoft. Earlier we have seen what is UAPIM and what are the different products involved. So API governance is one of them. So let's get started on that. So yeah, just to introduce about myself. Yeah, I'm not a moderator to speak. That's from different meetup maybe. Yeah, to introduce, I'm currently working as a developer advocate at MuleSoft. And yeah, if you see here, this is the book I have actually co-written recently, and it's about to be published on 30th of September. It's currently available on Amazon. It's like a beginner's guide for you to get started with MuleSoft. If you're someone who's completely new, it's actually MuleSoft for Salesforce developers, but it's open for everyone. Whoever wants to get started with MuleSoft, who's completely new to MuleSoft, wants to track MCD interviews and stuff. It's like a beginner's guide. Yeah, so maybe you can just order from Amazon the hard copy or the ebook. To tell about myself, I have around 5 years of experience in MuleSoft. I have previously been a MuleSoft developer, architect. I've been a speaker, blogger, and stuff for different sessions and all globally. I have been advocating women in tech and also speaking at different public events and stuff like meetups. Yeah, and also leading Manchester Meetup, London Meetup, and the Mumbai MuleSoft Meetup. Yeah, that's pretty much about me. So let's get started. So to begin with, what API governance is? Any idea from you guys? If you have previously worked with API governance, or what API governance is? Any guesses or anything you would like to have?
Governance has got management, if you like, of the estate and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And future stuff like that. So API governance presumably is the management of your estate and serious amounts of strategy, best practices, for implementation, and making sure that rules are adhered to. As a, is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty much right. So yeah, API governance is, as you said, like it's more of management of API. But what kind of products have you previously used for API governance, or maybe for governing your applications or Mule applications, or it could be non-Mule applications? Have you used any products to govern, like if your not just API, your applications, if they're following some standards or something like that?
So it's not necessarily tools. Arguably, it's just as basic as spreadsheets. So if you do application governance, you've got a list of, you've got spreadsheets that are, are master spreadsheets that are managed within certain locations that only have access to things like that catalogue your applications or APIs or things like that. Similar sort of thing, stuff like that. But I suppose arguably.
That's pretty much, I mean, that's pretty close actually. Yeah, that's fine. So basically, yeah, API governance. Basically moving before into API governance, maybe we can see what is governance. Okay. So in governance is basically like, as we know the definition, like it's more about compliance, rules, regulation, mainly that we are following the protocol, standards and all. So suppose if we are already having a team of developers and we have been working on a project for quite a long time, but suppose if there is someone new who has been introduced to the team, so how will we make sure that even the person who has been newly joined, he's following the same standards, products, he doesn't violate some other rule, he doesn't bring in some of his own that is not compliant, something like that. So how do we ensure all of these things, that everything has been taken care of, everything is in place, the naming conventions, the security protocols, all of these things are in place. So for that we have API governance, which has been brought up. So before this, if you have seen, you must have used those tools like SonarQube and all, where you explicitly define all those rules and stuff, like, and then you integrate it, and then that's how you make sure that the rules have been followed. There have been some checklists and stuff. So this is something you can say similar kind of thing, but this is like on your Anypoint platform. So yeah, this is more simple, like what governance is, and now we'll be checking out like what is like API governance in actual video demo. And meanwhile, if you have any questions about API governance, UAPIM or anything like that, yeah, just feel free to stop me immediately. So moving up, like why do we need API governance, and what is like, yeah, definitely we know that API governance is MuleSoft's Anypoint platforms tool, which comes under a UAPIM's package, and that which helps you to actually follow standards, protocols and stuff. But why do we actually need it? So yeah, there's 3 simple reasons. You can actually apply all the best practices, standards and all to your API. You make sure that all your APIs are aligned. They are following your company protocols, standards, compliance, not just security standards and all. You can also make sure that they're following the best practices and all. And it's quite easy to apply and stuff. It's like, and you're making sure that all your security, all your APIs are aligned and they are like following the protocols. You can govern your API while it's in development stage. So earlier while I was talking about SonarQube, we have seen that normally we apply the SonarQube rules and all to the Mule application stuff, right? Like how the number of coding lines, it shouldn't be increased, or how we need to have the application's name, or what are the files are allowed in a particular folder kind of thing. But with API governance, we are starting the governance at an early stage. Early in the sense we're starting it at the development of, the designing of the API phase itself. So that's what it gives you, an early access on governing your API. And the third and the best part is like you can actually collaborate it with your DevOps. So whatever CI/CD integration you are having currently, you can integrate your API governance with that. It has the capability, what we call it as a terminal, or the terminal thing, right? What we have, I don't remember the name. Yeah, but yeah, you can connect it with your DevOps, your CI/CD tools, which makes it more flexible because you are having kind of API ops thing, not exactly API ops, but you're getting a more control on your APIs, on your security, on your best practices, standard, your guidelines, and we're just making sure that everything is all aligned and in the same pitch. Any questions until now? I think that was kind of theory. We'll be just going ahead with the demo and stuff, and I guess that will bring up more questions or inquisitiveness. So yeah, there are few concepts when we are starting with the API governance, right? So let's just get into the technical part. Like yeah, there are a few concepts, but they are pretty much simple. And there is a great documentation as well available on the MuleSoft site, which you can refer if you want to work with API governance. So as a beginners, yeah, this is the Anypoint platform slide. which we'll be seeing in the demo as well. So there are the API governance profiles. We have seen in the previous presentation, which Chetan sir presented, like we had this policy kind of thing where we configure policy. Similarly, we'll be configuring a profile here, which is like this profile will be having all the information about your governance rules and stuff. Maybe what are the kind of rule sets you're gonna have, what are the kind of APIs you're gonna have, how, and if there are some policy violations which is taking place, or if something or some category of best practice is not being followed correctly, how are you going to handle it out? What are the notifications that will be sent? To whom they will be sent? You can review your profile as well. So this is overall screen, which is like a one-place thing where you'll be configuring all your profile, and we'll see how to configure a governance profile. Also, after profile, if you see the second thing, there is a rule set. So that's where we come into. Sorry. Yeah, the API governance rule set. So there are several rule sets as we define. It's not just security. There are like different authentication, data graph best practices. What are the different examples? OAPs, API security top tools, and then the open API best practices. So there are several of the rule sets. You can select whichever rule set you want for which APIs. You can also categorize your APIs. There are different categories present for the what we call it, the normal REST APIs, for the async APIs, or if you want to categorize your API as per the security, system APIs, or maybe process API, experience API. If you want to add the tags to them, you can do that as well, and you can just categorize your API. You can create your own rule sets. Yeah, these are some predefined rule sets which we have, like just like the way we have the predefined policy, which we call it the out-of-the-box policies, and we also have custom policies, right? We can customize the security policies, and we can create our own policies. Similarly, we can create our own rule sets. We can create our own profile. That is something we can actually create. But if apart from this, if you want to have something custom rule set, right, which will be like custom to your organization. Like we have this Anypoint best practices, but along with those best practices, if you want something which is like more suitable for your organization, you can edit that as well. So there will be a YAML file which is available. You can just edit it out, and then you can publish it over to Exchange, and then you can bring that rule set into picture as well. So it's completely customizable. So yeah, just moving backward to the API governance profile. This is the entire profile which will be having all the details about what all thing you're going to govern, like which APIs you're going to govern, which rule sets you're going to apply, whom the emails will be sent if the policy is being violated. Okay. So suppose if your APIs, what is conformant, non-conformant, we'll see, but basically what is let's go there. So there's a concept like conformant and non-conformant, which will be coming ahead as well in the future. So conformant in a simple, as per the definition, it says that if it is compatible, or if it's following standards, that's what conformant means. So non-conformant, yeah, it's the opposite one. So yeah, there are two types of statuses kind of, you can say, when you're applying or governing your APIs. It is conformant and non-conformant. If your API is actually following all the best practices or the standards that applied, so we call it as conformant. That's quite very simple. If it's not, it's non-conformant. So as per this conformant and non-conformant, like how do we get this status, two statuses? So it's from this, like if more than 70% of APIs, if they are following the standards and regulations and stuff, then we call, if they are conformant, 70% of them, then it's like a normal, then the status would be normal. If it is like less than 70%, then they are at risk. So we need to be like checking out like what is missing. We need to be adding out what is missing and stuff, and then in order to make sure it's compiled, or maybe it's like following all the standards. So API governance in short is more about following all the protocol standards and the guidelines, the best practices, making sure your API is like standardized mainly, making it pretty good and maybe, yeah. So we have seen what is conformant, non-conformant, what it means, and what is the severance level. So while we'll be doing the demo, right? So we'll actually see like the level of severance. It could be low, it could be medium, and it could be high, based on the number of rule sets passed. So we have already seen what are the different kinds of rule sets. There are security rule sets. There is like best practices rule sets. There are different kinds of rule sets which we have applied. And when we'll be applying these rule sets on our API, right? So at that time, some of the APIs might compile, might comply to the rule set. Some of them might not. So based on that, if at least 81 to 99% of the rule sets are passed, which is like quite a good number. I mean, almost most of your rules are passing. So the non-conformance severity level is low. And then as per that it follows, I mean, if it is 0 to 40% of rule sets are passed, which is like very less number of, I mean, quite less portion of rule sets are passed. So if the non-conformance severity level is high, and we actually need to take into consideration like what is the conformance severity, or maybe we can be sending out an email, or we want to have an attention of you. Suppose maybe in this case you can have an example like a junior developer who's completely new to your firm, he's joining, and you have assigned him a task of working on an API, and he might have missed few of this thing which is like actually not acceptable, like while designing phase itself. And it's better that you catch all of these like missing gaps, or maybe you fill in this gap at an early stage, right? So that you're not maybe in order to avoid the rework in future or something like that. So yeah, these are the different severity levels, and yeah, these are the different rule sets as well. With this, I think we have most of them covered, like what all things are actually present in API governance. It's pretty quite simple, and you can actually trial it with your own Anypoint platform trial account. Is available for everyone for free, and I mean, yeah, it's quite easy to apply as well. So maybe you can, what we can do is we can just head over to the demo. We can see what all we are going to see in the demo. So we'll be creating our API governance profile, okay, on our Anypoint platform. We'll be seeing what are the different kind of rule sets that are present, which we can apply. We'll see what is the conformant status, what is the non-conformant status, how we can change the status. If our API is non-conformant, how we can change it to conformant, and then how we can apply an API governance to your API, and can we publish some APIs or not if they are non-conformant. So there are several other questions. Also, if you get any questions while I'm presenting the demo, just feel free to stop me in between, and yeah, make sure you're paying attention. We'll be having a trivia quiz as well at the end. Cool. Any questions? As of now? No?
Well, I've got three. Do you want to wait till the end?
Cool. Sure. Bring them on.
Right, so you mentioned about alerting the non-compliance going to
Sorry, I
email.
mentioned about?
Sorry, you mentioned about alerting of non-compliance
Yeah.
going to an email, so you can set up a series of, presumably a series of email addresses.
Definitely, yeah.
Can you do anything else, like block the API deployment for runtime or anything else, or is it just alerting at the moment?
Okay, for now, if it's alerting, and then it will be sending you an alert, and then if you're like adding, we'll just see, then it won't allow you to publish to Exchange until those errors and all are resolved.
Right, so you can a block,
You can put a block,
yeah.
yeah.
Right, okay. The other two keep going. I'll come back.
Okay, yeah, if you have more, like maybe we just stop in between.
I have something. So, not related to API governance, but the CI/CD pipeline that we implement in our project, what we do is we have something called AM unit, which is automated unit testing. So if it is less than 80%, it will not able to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one place that I was at,
But
they were running those tests, but they weren't going to block it step in the CDI pipeline yet. So that's, apparently it could, but they have to work out how to do it. So that's the other point, I suppose, that is you mentioned about SodaCube, which I'd call more security checks and things like that, is that things like that often generate false positives for various reasons due to the nature. Is there a way to, because the API will continue to generate false positives, is there any way to put a flag against it and say, right, ignore this going forward?
I mean, yeah, but if there is no error as such in your API, then it won't be like taking. And we have also seen this thing, right? The level of threshold that we'll be having, the rule set passed, and the severity levels. So as per that, we can define in the API governance policy what is the level which we are going to approve of.
So I'll give an example. So like I said, we use places like use GitLab, and I used a series of internal stuff, things like that. And one of them, it did a series of sort of pattern checks against the information in the APIs. And it flagged up that it found a US social security number. And digging into it, or there was another great one where it found HashiCorp token, which I thought, well, we're not using HashiCorp. And you looked at the evolution of the product, they'd even removed the rule. But arguably, if you put a blocker up and said you've got this, you find this token in about 3 or 4 different places, because there's 3 or 4 different examples.
Yeah, but that would be, I mean, if you're saying about there is some security threat in, I mean, that is occurring, but that won't be there at the API design level, right? We are talking at the very scratch at the initial level. If you're when you're designing the API, so that will be more of a mock data, or if you're having like.
Pen testing there, I think.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
no,
So
this
that-
it's a type of pen testing,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
what they were trying to do was implement a certain amount of automated testing
No, I appreciate that.
to not have to pay the high costs of pen testing, or to
Mm.
catch you so early on,
Yeah.
like you say, that you don't, you've got
But what you're trying to do with this type of governance is you're trying to identify non-conformance from standards and practices that you're employing in your platform.
So it's more design, like you said, rather than necessarily.
No, so if you, for example, identify that there should be, I don't know, an authentication policy in place on every API, you can put a governance rule against that and identify where different APIs are not conforming with that. So you can catch it in DevOps and you can also catch it in.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's meant to give you a single pane of glass from a way of
Yeah, yeah.
identifying exceptions in your ecosystem. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Because like I said, we were relying on someone else to implement it there, and if we were in charge of it, we could have implemented it ourselves.
Interesting use case though, around that.
What?
Token.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's my third question. You take something like GitLab, they're as a CDI pipeline, one of their strengths is they can provide a lot of free sort of testing software. So they integrate third-party software to run that as a tool. So they don't do solely cube check marks, they don't use check marks, but that's similar sort of thing. So they can integrate as part of their platform and do it, and they have regular updates. So every month, if it's updated, you can update things like that.
I think one of the things you're trying to achieve with this solution as well is that if you think if you've got a C3 in place, then you've got different parts of the business that are effectively managing their own products, their APIs and products. You want to give them the ability to identify exceptions in their products.
Yeah.
Without the C3 having to lean in all the time and do that small, right?
Yeah.
It gives you different ways of helping an ecosystem, a community, your organisation do it.
That's a fair shout, actually, because you can imagine different parts of the business saying, we'll allow this, and other parts saying, no, we definitely won't.
Yeah.
Sorry, anyway, go.
Quick question.
Any other questions? Anyone? Yeah.
To the rule sets, can you add different weightings to different rules?
Okay. So this one.
Yeah. So can you add different weightings? So when you say 80% of the rule set being passed, can you say that one rule is more important, more critical than the others?
Yeah.
Then say this one's worth 5.
No, I don't think so. We can add.
I had a similar thought actually.
Yeah.
If we, something.
But
you know,
that's a good
everything-
idea. I mean, we can just put it on a suggestion portal, something like that, and we can take it up. Yeah.
If everything is passed, but you know, if the security policy is not applied, it's failed actually.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Something like that. Like we can make some of the rules like more critical kind of thing. Maybe we'll have to explore more into it, or maybe we can some suggestion to the product team.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's head over to our demo. It's gonna be very like simple.
It's gonna be really between now.
Especially if I get a ukulele.
Get to play laptop with us.
So here we are in the Anypoint platform. So I'm just going to be doing my design center, where you can see we have just two APIs. One of them is like I'll just show you what kind of API. This is a very simple API, okay, which is already having errors.
Getting a really bad echo.
No, it will work sometime back. Yeah. One more API which is like completely free of errors and stuff. This is something which I have imported from Exchange. Yep. So let's head to the API governance. like how API governance portal look like. And you'll be also having this thing on your trial account, so you don't need any subscription for this. So first step was like creating a profile and then we'll be like selecting our rule set. So let's just enter click profile. You can select like best practices. And maybe security stuff. Or just security. API security. You can write why do you need it? API security or system API. In the next step, we'll define like which all security rule sets you need. So you can select multiple of them, or you can just select a few. So if you see any of them, like suppose if I'm selecting authentication, best practice. Okay. So I can also see this thing like what is actually present in this rule sets and all. So this is how it looks like. What are the rule sets? What are the violations we have? More about the details and stuff. Also, you can just download this. It will be more like a YAML file. And if you want to have a custom rule set, like apart from what is already present, so you can modify that thing as well. Okay, we are just selecting a security best practices. We'll go to next. We'll define like what type of APIs you want. You want the REST APIs or the async APIs? For now, it's just going to be like REST APIs because we have that. Okay, fine. So as I've selected REST APIs, so I have got two types of API, which is like API governance system demo and the music box system API, which is like the one with errors. Okay. But if I want just one of the APIs to be selected, I'll go ahead with the tags. But currently, you see, I don't have any tags over here. So let me just go in my Exchange and define some tags for my API. So maybe here you can see the tag. I can select like I want to apply security best practices to this one. And I have one more API for which I want to give tag like best practice or security too. Some different type of security. Like it depends on you what type of tag you want to provide. So after this, if you just refresh. Why don't I do it again? I'm selecting using the application best practice. So it is the API governance template. Okay, this is the one for which I'm applying my category policy. So this was a notification. You can also disable notification if you want, or if you have some particular emails. Like currently, the email will be sent to me because I am the API publisher. Like this is my account and stuff. But if you want something else as well, you can add your API. So this is like the overall. So if you see the creation of the API governance profile, right? Yeah. So if you see like this profile, it's more like I don't know why it's like hello. Yeah. It's better.
It's catching the laptop's mic.
Oh.
voice.
Is it fine now?
No. Just put the mic.
Yeah.
Just put the mic.
I think it's fine.
Switch off.
Not
the mic.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, this is like how the overall profile looks like. So if we have like we have been creating security policies or something like that.
This one is.
It's got to be a microphone on.
I think it's.
It's just like we can hear your voice and your voice from laptop speaker as well.
Can you speak now?
So
Just step to the side a bit.
This is spooky.
No issue.
that's fine. We can.
That's fine.
So So yeah, if the profile, if you see the overall profile and stuff, it's like yeah, it's like whenever we are creating a policy or we are applying a policy or API manager, right? This is how we create an API manager policy as well, the out-of-box policy. We can overview all the policy related things. So yeah, just create a profile. And you see it's been created and validation time is like around 2 minutes. So that API was like proper 100% confirmed profile because that I had selected and imported from Exchange. That's why it works well. So you see the version is stable and it's not yet validated because it says that the validation time is 2 minutes. So after 2 minutes, maybe if you refresh, it's gonna give me a confirmed status. I still not validated.
So it's now time for questions.
Yeah, sure.
You mentioned earlier about the rules. Did you say the rule sets are in a form of rabble? Divided YAML? Yeah. So arguably then a third party could come along and say, oh, arguably you could do custom rules as long as you configure it like that. Okay.
So if you want to have like any of your custom rules, custom security best practices which are compliant to your organization, maybe you can just add that thing and you can publish it on Exchange and then you will be having a rule set available as well. So yes, customization. And it's still not validated. Yeah, let's wait for it to be validated. So meanwhile, if I want to create, see how the API governance this looks like profile look like. So and what are the API which comes under this profile? So this is just one API, but you can be just creating one profile, and you can be applying those profiles to multiple APIs. Like suppose if I'm creating one profile for system APIs, so I'm applying like across all the system APIs present in an organization or across all the process APIs. Let's wait for the status to change. It's still not validated. Let me open the design center. This was the API on which we have applied the profile governance profile. So non-conforming decentralized governance rule sets. So if there are the latest version of the project, it has failed. Even this project has failed to comply to the rule sets and stuff. So I need to apply authentication best security rule sets to this thing because I had applied the authentication rule sets, right, while we are creating a profile. So let me add the rule sets from here. So design center is actually giving me some feedback or suggestions like what are the rule sets I need to be adding to make my API compliant to that rule set and also the profile. So once it is done, also one major tip, like make sure your API is published to Exchange before applying any rule sets and stuff, so that only then it will be like you can apply a profile, you can apply rule sets and stuff. So let me, because now we have added all the things that's needed, and I'm just publishing it to Exchange. Any questions meanwhile? It's long. So now we are getting a conformance status over here. Earlier we had like some thing were not like accepted or some groups were not met. So it's like all one-on-one rule set part. It's showing one-on-one because we had just applied one rule set. You can be having multiple rule sets and you can pass them as well. We can filter what are the different types of APIs. Also the CVLs level which we spoke about right before. There's a low, medium, high kind of performance and which was like how do you categorize them. So yeah, these are the different kinds of rule sets based on the conformance, non-conformance level. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much about it. Maybe we can just try applying some different rule sets, or maybe the same rule set to the one API which was failing before. So just exploring something, yeah. So maybe we can have best practices for some of the API. Yeah. Let me take Anypoint API best practices. Let's see exchange as well. So yeah, there are different kinds of violations, warnings and all. There are some comments as well. Yeah, so if you guys also have some comments which you want, you can add it up here. Or as you guys were saying, like can we just block the publishing to exchange while the API is like having errors or something? Yeah. So I'm applying, like I'm creating a new rule set, new profile now. Earlier we had added the authentication security best practices. Now we can just add Anypoint best practices, which is going to be like the caustics are crazy. Yeah, so resource level should be in lowercase and these kind of things. And damn sure that my API which I had created, as you said, a very bad developer. Yeah, so that won't definitely, it won't be following the best practices. So let me add security to, so it will give me the API which I have designed, and this is definitely not complying to what all things we need to be having, like what all best practices we need to be having. So this time we are going to fail, but yeah, we can explore. So yeah, and even with this sense, and this is how the overall profile looks like. So yeah, you see the API, API security best practice, we are having two profiles now. Okay, one is the API security which we created before, and the API best practices which we created now, and the status is at risk. Okay, it is having one API which is the best box. So let us see what are the things, how it is failing, what are the number of violations we have. These are the different. We have not used content type header, and then the naming conventions are not right. The ISO standards, the Anypoint best practices, they are not followed. The schema and everything is not in order. So there are several issues which we see how it is. Now let us go back to Design Center and see if we are able to publish the exchange and how is the API looking like. Yeah, you can see the status as well. It's non-conformant. It is a stable API. Yeah, this is an exchange. We go to the Design Center. So if I go into exchange dependencies, it is non-conformant to centralized governance rule sets. Okay, let me add those rule sets. It is the Anypoint best practices. That is the rules in which we have applied, and now Design Center is giving me suggestions. Like I can add this rule set to my API, which is like really good. I don't do anything explicitly, or I don't have to dig into errors and all see like where I'm missing out, what I'm missing out. Okay, it has applied the rule sets and all, but there are two rule sets which have been applied to this profile. They are security best practices and the API governance best practices as well. So I know the fix for this. I have to use the security. Yes. Yeah. let me just see, before adding the security thing, are we like before we should have tried publishing to Exchange as well? I mean, definitely now there are errors, and we have not added the thing. It will be publishing to Exchange. And yeah, that is one thing. You need to fix the errors and all those things. Only then you can publish to Exchange. But there is nothing as you had a question, right? If there is something failing, if some rule is not compliant, can then we stop or prevent from going further? There is nothing as such. You have to make sure it's manually done and only based on this email request. Maybe coming in future releases, we can be having something like that. So by adding the security stuff and all, and making sure that all the errors and all are resolved. Okay. Because I've already added the security stuff. My API is really out of order. Provide a documentation process. So definitely that we're not doing it right now. But this is how your API, if suppose if your junior developer who's like me, who has made all this mess out of API, he won't be able to go ahead and publish his API until all these issues are fixed or resolved, until your API is actually following the standards. So I guess pretty much that about Anypoint API governance. If you have any queries or if you would like to try something new, you can do that. Or I think you understand. This is how it gives us the overall statistics, like the number of profiles. We have two APIs, conformant. Second one is non-conformant because it's a mess. And what is the status? One is at risk because it's like more than 70% of the it's not conforming. So, any questions or anything? Because this is if you want to go ahead and explore more about this, this is the initial thing. You can definitely go into Anypoint platform, trial out the API governance. If you want to do something extra, you can create your own custom rule set, publish it to Exchange. You can integrate this thing with CI/CD and get it done. That's pretty much it for API governance. So let's head back to our slides.
There is a question. When we will use traits, right? When we use traits in the rammer, so how it will, validate when.
So if you want to use some traits, you're saying. So that the trait should be falling under one of the categories, the security category, any of that, right? So and we'll be obviously creating the fragments and the links and all will be providing how in the main rammer basically. So if there are some, if you're talking about traits from the best practices perspective, how you will be defining traits and all, you can mention in your rule set or it will be there in the current rule set as well. If it is about a security trait, if you have missed something, then it will be giving you a warning that it's not conformant and you need to add something. So we have covered everything over here in the demo. Let's recap what all we have studied about API governance. Basically what is API governance? It's a compliance tool or maybe platform which is made available to you by Anypoint platform. Why do we need it? To make sure that our API is being standard and following the protocol is compliant from the very early stage of your API design. We have seen what is API governance profile, rule set, what are the different statuses, what is conformant, non-conformant, what is high risk, normal API, and all this. We have seen how to implement API governance, we have seen how to create a simple profile added to your APIs and all. And there is a good use of documentation which is available if you want to practice any of this. So also this comes under the UAPIM package, so it's pay as you go and then you can be extending your capabilities. I think with that we're done. If you guys have any questions, we can take it. Or maybe Nitish can take up the trivia quiz. Thank you.
Thank you.
time for trivia quiz. If you still have any questions to ask to Chetan or Akshata, we'll wait for another 30 seconds before we start with the quiz.
Sure.
If not, then I can start right away. All right. So first question is, what is the non-conformance severity level if 0 to 40% rule sets are passed? Is it low, medium, high, very high?
Low.
All right, we have two answers, low, low.
Oh, severity level.
This might be a tricky one.
High, medium, low, high.
He's right.
All right.
High.
Yeah.
There's nothing as very high.
People said low first, but we'll forget.
I
Yeah,
just,
can use that question.
yeah.
Trick question.
Trick.
There is nothing as very high. I just added because I needed a fourth option.
That's a distractor.
Yeah.
Good one. All right, next question. We can implement API governance with doubts. True or false?
Yeah.
This is true. True. Okay. Any more
Okay.
answers? True, false? Maybe. Third options? Maybe.
See, David Beckham.
So who gave the first?
Who gave the first answer?
Quick answer.
Bobby.
Well,
Yeah.
we're right.
Yeah, you're. Oh, yeah.
Alright. Proceeding to the next one. What is the pricing model of Flex Gateway? Is it a fixed price?
B.
Whoa, we have been speaking about it the
Alright.
entire evening today.
Yeah, I think it's a B. Yes, for the Alright. So can we list down the number of APIs, number of requests as well, if somebody knows?
Yeah.
Per year, something.
It's something like the API manager, per API per month.
Yeah, API manages API per month.
There's a number
I
of
think Flex
requests.
Gateway was 100 million
Yeah.
per year.
Yeah.
But oh no, it is B, yeah. We're going deeper, mate. We're going deeper, sorry. Yeah. So all the other APIs are per API per month.
Sorry, I totally forgot like who gave the first answer. We already have.
We already have Bobby and.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Both gave at the same time.
Yeah.
So I just nicked the
Thank
hearing.
You haven't answered it, did you? Okay. Okay, the last and final question. Can you guess the question? No, not the answer, just the question. Alright. Flex Gateway can be installed on Cloud Hub. Oh, that's a
But we
difficult
just
one.
have 3 winners.
True or false?
He answered true. Bobby answered true.
Sorry, what did you answer?
I think false.
False.
It's false.
Yeah, it's correct.
Okay. Yeah, it's correct. But do you know why can't we install this on Cloud Hub?
I'm not sure that I think you were saying
That was a nice
you
one.
were saying that it is self-acquiring, like we use it in place.
Yeah.
I think that's why.
Because Cloud Hub still uses API Manager, right? So I think Chetan can back my explanation. That's right. All right. False is the option, and the next question is nothing. Okay, what's next?
Great.
All right. So what's next? Like, yeah, just share whatever we have learned today about networking, about this meetup. Tweet using the hashtag. Hashtag MuleSoft Meetups, and invite your network to join because we have been seeing so much of large gathering.
Yeah.
And feedback. So they are very much crucial to our meetups, right? So fill out the survey feedback. You probably